Hello, folks, and welcome to the Friend or Foe Lounge. I am your friendly neighborhood Shoutcaster Shargan, and I have joining with me today, we've got Oriri and Irontower from Terracotta Gaming, and we've got Truelax from STC. We're going to be talking today about Terracotta and Rex's upcoming semifinal games. I want to get y'all's kind of opinions on how you think these matchups are going to go, and I think we should just kind of jump right in onto Terracotta versus RLS. So while I hit the play button here and we just start getting this going, just kind of hop into, not this one right here. I want to pull up one of the RLS games. Oh, that's still TG. Technical difficulties. There we go. RLS versus TG. All right, so I'm just going to bring this over here. It's kind of, Oriri, you first. Just kind of give us the overall opinion of what you're thinking going in to this matchup.
Going into RLS, I just don't want them to get their final gym badge, to be honest. So I obviously want to win, but it's more of like I want to deny them the victory rather than more I want to win, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. That's just my personal bit about that.
Gotcha. You want to be the Giovanni, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then Irontower, like, what about you and Escape? Like, how do you think that matchup's going to end up going?
I think that matchup has gone reasonably favorably in the past. Is Escape that everyone makes fun of for not auto-attacking once team fights start? I can't remember if that's him or not. One of the top teams. No, yeah,
I'm pretty sure. It's him.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I don't like playing against the Ziggs, but I think we've banded against them every time, and who knows? But the rest of it, I think it's gone okay. I think our first game, it was one of the only things that went okay. So that ended up okay. But I'm looking forward to it. I think it's a fun lane matchup. I think it's a good, like, classic tanks and carries just running at each other.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then from an outsider's perspective, Truelax, how do you think these two match up? Obviously, they're RLS are like Oriri and Irontower. They're going to be a little biased.
Yeah. Being I've gone against both the teams, I think this is going to be a good matchup. I think it's going to come down to team fights and how well each team does front-to-back team fighting, personally, and then objective controls. Because I know TG has very good objective control, and as well as having War Leader and Anti, those are the two guys that when we were facing them that we focused as far as our bans are concerned, because we weren't too worried about the mid lane matchups, and our bot lane is pretty solid. I think TG has the better bot lane, in my opinion, but I also think that Anti is just someone you can never underestimate. So I think this is going to be a really, really fun series for us to watch.
I'm looking forward to it. I think it's going to be freaking great. Like, honestly, like the way both these teams, I've liked Terracotta's story, and I think you guys have done a fantastic job throughout the course of the season, just kind of growing beyond the meme, essentially, is a good way to describe it. And like, because it's like, admittedly, like that was it was a little bit of a chip on y'all's shoulder, I think, at the beginning, but you kind of embraced it and built off it and done pretty good. This particular team fight, I think y'all did a great job. You were about even, did a good job zoning off RLS, and we're able to.
We still lose the Drake, sadly.
Yeah, you lose it. I was not gonna bring that up. I was gonna let it play on its own, but maybe because Shielded Valor and TN kind of went down hunting for a kill instead of curing the Drake.
So I think we're both even when it comes to objective control. Like, we both are pretty decent at it, but I think TG specifically is better at team fighting. I think RLS is better, and specifically on the top part of the map, is better at laning, like especially in the top lane. But I know Shielded Valor is trying to prove that wrong, but he only plays tanks, so hopefully he'll get a chance to actually prove that he is a better laner and play something that
so how do you guys do your draft?
Realistically, like our best comps is usually me on like a bruiser champ. And then we have a AP damage dealer, or whatever kind, Syndra, whoever, Corki, stuff like that. And then we have usually a pretty aggressive bot lane with an aggressive support paired with a pretty aggressive AD carry.
Right. I'm more referring to like whenever you guys are going into the draft, like how are you like focusing down the enemy team? Like what's your kind of draft philosophy essentially?
We just look to play our best game rather than counter their best game. Okay. If that makes sense. So we're not gonna try like. I would rather play our best champions and deal with a slight counter than play a slightly for example, if I play Kiana and it's a perfect counter to whatever champion, obviously I'm not going to be mechanically as good, or in team fights I'm not going to know exactly what to do. So just rather play our best game rather than our
play on champs that you're good at and okay. So I just like Truelax again. Like you've played against both these teams and you kind of have like a general idea of how it's going. It's like I'm really just kind of curious how this specific matchup's going to go. So just looking at Anti versus Irontower, it's like I know Oriri, you've mentioned that you hope that he gets to play something other than tanks. Now, is that his decision or is that y'all's decision?
It's mostly our coach's decision.
Okay.
We usually we give what we want to play into them and our recommended bans, but he ultimately picks our champs. We only he'll ask us if we have but he usually just picks our champs for us. So for more champ oriented stuff, you're gonna have to ask him.
Okay, so Truelax, this is where sorry, go right ahead.
Oh yeah, no, I was gonna say when it comes to drafts, I mean, especially with when we were drafting, our coach Sundobu basically had three team comps in mind of how he wanted to execute based on what bans we were gonna do, and then you could counter pick, but I think the best performances we've seen in the FoF has really been when you get those comfort champs. So you get those ones that you understand exactly how to play it. From my own experience, when I was able to get Alawi, I'm extremely comfortable in that matchup, whatever it is, because I know exactly what I need to do to execute. I know if I get ganked, I'm going to be fine, because if my ult's up, all I got to do is land the E. You land the E, you're scuffed. it's done. But if you don't land the E, you're scuffed. But yeah, I think it's going to come down to when it comes to drafts, it's just how to make your comp synergize with what you're all comfortable on. I think is always the best way to do it.
Okay, well, so it sounds like the coaches make a pretty big impact on these games, it's kind of the deciding factor. And I know that there's a few other teams who don't have them. That's something that I didn't realize how big of a deal. I sometimes thought it was coaches are okay, so this is what you should be doing, that sort of thing. And then once the draft starts, they kind of let you all have free reign, but it doesn't really sound that way.
Yeah, I mean, our coach really he only really focuses on our vision control and stuff like that, not as much our macro decisions, because our macro decisions are, I'm not gonna say perfect because we're platinum and stuff like that, obviously, but they're good enough to obviously play in a league where we have Rex and we beat them with macro decisions mostly. So, and they're considered the best macro team in the league, so there's that. So I'm not gonna take it too much into offense.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say that's a good point. Is at the end of the day, also does come down to those macro decisions. So I mean, and front to back team fighting especially is important, because you'll see a lot of the teams that Girl's a good example. Really great early game control over objectives, but having trouble translating that early control into the mid to the late game.
Another thing to mention about RLS versus CG is both games have come down to one team fight, and we won both games. So if that tells you anything at all, I'm not saying I think we're better than them, and I think that goes into the fact that we've won both of our games. But a lot of our games we're behind, and we always come back through team fighting. So it's nothing against them. I just think we're just a better team fight team.
Okay.
Yeah. You could say that.
You could say that. That's certainly the thing you can say.
I'm not trying to disrespect them, because I think they're a really good team overall.
Yeah, and I think, just in the last series we just watched with RLS, I think you saw a lot of. I think honestly, they inted 2 of those games in my opinion. I think their team comps were much more solid and they just didn't execute. I thought they did a really good job as far as their drafting and ability. Like, and if they had executed a little bit better in the team fights, they would have come away with a 3-0. In my opinion, just because I've played against like all these teams, I know a lot of like how they play. So I think it's just making sure when you get those team comps and you can look at it just statically, who's got the better team comp. As long as you execute, I think that's really what it's going to come down to. But especially between these two teams, because TG and RLS draft very well. So I think it's just going to come down to who gets the slightly better edge on the team comp and who gets the edge in lane to translate that to the mid game.
I completely.
Another thing we can talk about is the fact that specifically in the bot lane, they're playing a lot of the meta champions. They're playing the Misfortune. They're playing the Lucian Nami. They're playing all these champions that are really good. I don't know why everyone keeps bringing Airy. Stop using Blitz.gg. Stop using OP.gg for your runes. Just take Electrocute with Nami Lucian. Please. Stop it.
That honestly, so here's my thing about those aggregate sites, like the OP.ggs and things like that, is they're good and they're usually fairly accurate, but you're right, they're not cutting edge and they're not necessarily up to date on the patch.
And I mean, a lot of the time it's just based off like how many games are being played on with those runes and stuff like that. So it's just I think in like, because a lot of the good players per se are at Worlds, they're playing in other regions, blah 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 blah, whatever the case may be, and it's just not the Electrocute rune set isn't popping up as much. So people are just like transferring over from Blitz.gg. The most popular one is Airy, and I feel like especially with an aggressive AD carry, which is why you pick Nami Lucian, you're picking for because I believe it procs on each individual ball of her E, so that the Electrocute just is a lot of damage from Lucian, not even yourself.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I think you're right. The E does proc it, and that's what's making it so deadly. So I wonder if that's like an intended reaction or something they might eventually patch out.
I believe they're going to patch it out because I think it specifically says like 3 separate abilities and auto attacks, but it's coming from another champion. So it's like it's really. I guess it's just overall just a really weird interaction with Nami specifically.
It's basically Rito games and their spaghetti code.
Yep. It's just like the Fleet Footwork and Graves combo thing, where you can auto attack. You can stand in front of a minion, click to auto attack a champion. It'll give you the auto attack heal percentage from the champion, but you're hitting minions only. So there's that effect too, which is also probably something they'll patch out.
Yeah, seeing a lot of Graves play in solo queue.
Take advantage of it while you can then.
Yeah, you can. But I agree. I think a lot of times people are bringing in these pro builds, and I think it's better, like at least for me, and I started doing this more as, I was underneath with Sundobu as my coach, like was really like strategizing all of my runes based on who I matched up against. Like taking specific, like each one specifically, like when I went into the Shen, I was playing the last game I played Shen in, I specifically picked, like I think I played against Kennen, and so I specifically picked every rune to go against that matchup. And everyone takes grasp on Shen, but everything else was completely different than what I would normally do. And like that is the downside of like your Alolytics, your champion.gg, is that if you go to the most common build, it's just going to be a basic rune page, but I think everyone would do a lot better to like actually prioritize customizing all their pages based on who they're going against.
And also doing your own research. I know Yubi just uses analytics especially for champ picks, but I know like I get all my rune frames from experimenting mostly, rather than analytics or whatever the case may be. I use that for like counters. What was that ult?
Oh, that was actually something I wanted to bring up. So Pangusol has been doing you're talking about the Hecarim ult. I think he's already planning. Yeah, he was already planning to help out, and then just like whoops. It's click.
I think that may have been a preemptive trying to 200 IQ the Shen E, maybe.
Essentially,
but I don't think Shen gets that kill anyway, even if he gets the taunt Q off. Maybe?
Especially when he's way out of range.
I mean, but maybe he was gonna flash E, dude. Like, it's possible.
Even with the flash E, that is a style. You have to do that perfectly. Like, and if that's rough.
That's a fat finger angle on that one.
Yeah.
For sure.
definitely.
But
it's not even a buffered mistake because that move doesn't buffer. It just fires.
yeah, it's a skill shot.
Finger.
So
that's
for the RLS. For the RLS CG game, I think it's gonna come like how every other game RLS CG game is gonna come down to is one team fight in the late game, and that's that. It could be before an objective, after an objective, during an objective, but it's gonna come down to one team fight, and that'll end in the game. I mean, that's obviously like most of the time what it is in general, but I think specifically into RLS CG, it's been a pattern. And like both teams never really like get super far ahead against each other, so that's where I feel like it's just gonna be. I think it's probably gonna be a 3-2 series, super close. And
yeah, I think there's a lot. Back to talking a little bit about the Nami Electrocute, Lucian stuff, MF, whatever it is. There's a lot to be said about like nothing in this game is brain dead. As much as people may like to say that things are brain dead, nothing in this game is brain dead. We were like scrimming and we were playing against this team that basically just rotated meta champs. They were playing MF Leona, they were playing Lucian Nami with Electrocute and everything, and just don't know how to execute it. Or they're like, oh well, this is brain dead. It doesn't matter what the enemy team's playing. We can just do whatever we want. I'm like, yeah, except the enemy team's playing Thresh Caitlyn, and your Lucian steps up to do your combo. It doesn't matter if he gets his combo off. He gets Flay Hook trapped. Like. There's nothing is brain dead. Doesn't matter how strong a counterpick might be. I won a Kale into Aurelia Clash game last weekend. Like nothing is brain dead, and a lot of people tend to think that it might be. There's a lot of like, I spent half this season one tricking Caitlyn in FoF, and no one banned after like 3 games of going 11-1, and it's like, is this one of those? Caitlyn can't be good. If Caitlyn was good, we'd play it. It can't be good. It's just a fluke, so we're not going to ban it. Like the ego non-ban, I guess. And it all plays into like this. If something seems weak, it doesn't mean it's always weak. If someone's really, really good at something, they're going to be good at it. It's for a reason. And the same on the other hand. Like something may seem brain dead, stupid strong right now, but we're also golds. Like. We don't have a pocket reflex to start playing Lucian Nami if people have spent their whole season playing Leona, right? It's just a different situation.
Yeah, I think that gets to the point too of like playing like what we were talking about earlier is playing those comfort champions. It's like because they were all gold, like anywhere from bronze all the way to plat. So someone will make a mistake. We're not challenger. Someone's gonna make a misstep. Someone's gonna make a misplay, and it's all about capitalizing on those misplays. And generally, you could see that happening a lot in FoF, where it's one team steamrolls early and then starts to throw it back a little bit. It's kind of got that nice ebb and flow of the game. And so as long as you're comfortable on those champions, I think that's what's really gonna come down to it. Like the Caitlyn pick, it's like you don't see that too much in pro play, but you see it a lot in solo queue. You see it a lot in lower elo, higher elo. It's still a great pick because if you can execute on the champion, she's great. Her damage is ridiculous. So as long as you're comfortable on it and you're able to execute properly, like again, it just comes down to each person's execution, I think.
Yeah.
No, it's all a lot of really good points, and it's definitely kind of like an interesting thing to point out. And I do want to bring this up. I brought it up whenever I was talking to the folks on the last lounge regarding experimentation with different champs. Like, because you talk about Truelax, where you were saying where you're taking your specific runes for your specific matchup. Have there been anything like obviously if it's revealing a strat, you don't have to bring it up. But has there been anything that you guys have been experimenting with and kind of like trying to make your own in the sense of without like you go based off of the skeleton of the pro build, but you're like, okay, that's how this is, but I like doing this, similar to how Red kept building our rapid fire cannon?
Like for me at least, going off of when we were playing like in solo queue, I've tried a lot of experimenting on Alawi with like grass, different types of like, even one time tried Dark Harvest and just went super AD hard, which was a fun game for me. But it comes down to like when we picked the set mid, it was mostly like we had been screwing around with that in some of our scrims, just getting Nick on something else, and so we're like, hey, play, just try it, do the set. And so like we were like experimenting with different types of team comps, different ideas as far as like the set mid can work because he plays all AD champions. So we're like, all right, AD champions, let's put it in the computer. Here we go. You play set now. Like, you know, and sometimes it comes down to like, you don't expect that matchup. Like we got dusted by CFG early, like when we needed to win that game because they brought in the Mordekaiser bot lane and just a couple of missteps. Like we brought in, I think we had Jinx in that game, but the Mordekaiser bot lane was just stunned us. So sometimes you can pick that champion in the lane that just like that no one's expecting, and it just like the whole team strategy is like, what are we gonna do now? And just like trying to figure it out on the fly. So sometimes just those like crazy, like random picks can get you.
It's just like my Taliyah pick. No one knows I played Taliyah, and then I pull it out and I do really well on it. And it was.
I don't mean to bring back the trauma, but I'm just pulling it up.
Yeah, it was the Mordekaiser, Lulu, and then Morgana. It was just like Morgana hadn't been seen too much this season, I think, in FoF. I know she was a jungler last season, and she's still pretty good in the jungle, but it wasn't really a standard, I would say, quote-unquote meta pick for the, not like your Sejuanis, your Zacs, your Jarvans, your Xin-Zhaos, and stuff like that. So we were just, you know, we played very poorly that game, I think, but that was definitely one of those like bot lanes where you're like, we were really far ahead in farm, but one misstep in ult by Mordekaiser just erased that lead.
I do also think, just talking about this one specifically, we'll get to the Taliyah stuff here in a second, Oriri. I think with the the comp you had with the Jinx Janna going into a Mordekaiser Lulu, like that just seems rough in general. I don't remember the draft order for this game, and because I think this one was played off air.
They picked the Mordekaiser early, and we assumed that was going top because I was usually play Alawi. Yeah. Like so I'm either Alawi or Shen, and this time I ended up getting the Ornn against Alawi, which was honestly just hurtful. Up there. It was very oppressive. But when they picked the Mordekaiser, we just assumed, okay, that's going top lane. So we picked our lane just like, oh yeah, that's going top. Don't worry about it. So sometimes those like niche picks that you practice and that's not a normal pick down bot side, you can get the enemy team to make a misstep in draft. And I think a lot of games are won in your draft. Like, and that one is in particular, because we're like, oh yeah, that's going top, don't worry about it. Like, okay, yeah, we'll play Ornn into it. That's not that big of a deal for him. Like, I can deal. And then they picked the Alawi last, and then we were all just like, a question?
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
We made a mistake?
Yeah, we're like, where is that going? Bot lane?
Yep. So my only counter to that is, if you're looking at the top 4 teams, right? I think it may do something like that, but I don't think RLS, Rex, and TG are going to pull something funny like that.
I think you're underestimating Rex when you say that.
I'm just going off of like what I've seen. I'm not saying they can't do it. I'm just saying from what I've seen. Obviously, it's possible.
Well, from the way Joushi talks, it definitely sounds like, I feel like they're pulling out all the stops from this point forward.
But if you're pulling all the stops, like usually, like I feel like even this like Mordekaiser game, I think it was just like kind of a flex, like onto CFG rather than onto STC rather than, if you understand what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
I'm not trying to like diss you guys or anything like that, but it was a lot of teams.
They flexed on us on that one, especially with the cast and just like popped off, and then we put Nick on an immobile mage in the mid lane, and so we're just like, yeah, you'll be fine, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just, like I said, like, I think we lost that one in draft. And, I do agree with Shargan's point. I don't think you're going to see like one of those picks out of any of these teams that are left. I think you would see it more out of us, out of your CFGs, out of, I think those are the teams that would really like throw those random ass picks in there. But I think against Rex, they're going to stick pretty much to the meta, like what's going on in Worlds. So if you want to get a quick look at what's going to be played, I would say look at what's been being played in Worlds.
Yeah, because they're seeing like what has the highest win rate over there. Yeah,
I think they have to respect us enough to not do too much weird stuff. I think Antunes particularly is just too good to let anything get so out of control in bot lane, and we will make it late enough that having an AD carry matters. And if you haven't drafted an AD carry, I think you're gonna have a bad time. I also think something particularly that we do actually relatively well is that we really don't really don't leave ourselves open for counters. I think the way that we draft, we've accomplished that pretty well. And I guess also there's some, I've been a Caitlyn Jhin one trick the whole league, and then they finally, I don't remember, I think it was actually the Rex game, finally got the respect, and they two-banned Caitlyn Jhin out from under me, picked a whole bunch of tanks, and we're like, okay, we've made their AD carry uncomfortable and picked a bunch of tanks, we can't possibly lose. I was like, oh hey, Vayne's open, and they counter pick it with Draven, and it's still like not that relevant of a counter pick, because Antunes is a Smurf basically. Not legitimately, obviously.
I was gonna say, it's like, are you saying something you shouldn't be saying over there, Irontower?
Something on the chat.
He's colloquially a Smurf.
Colloquially a Smurf. Okay.
Not botanically a Smurf.
Yeah.
No, he's and so we don't have any problems. I think there were some major mistakes there, made. I think that is actually something that happens a lot, and I think this is actually a lot of times when you have this is a lot of times where a draft gap can fail is. In that instance specifically, they picked the Draven into Vayne, and that's a massive counter pick, especially in lane. And you basically just have to play like you have a Draven, and you don't let the Vayne do anything. And the problem is, I don't know if it was like so confident that they have the winning matchup that they don't need to like put effort into it, but their support roamed for like several levels. It's like you've just given Vayne her lane back like into a Draven, and after we both have an item, that's like irrelevant now. And I think that's a lot of ways, and I see this a lot across all teams in the league. I think we've done it for sure. We've picked the aggressive lane and then let the weak lane scale because we're like, oh, this lane's easy. I'm just going to roam for a long time. And every team does it, and it's a really easy way to throw away, a really good draw.
Yeah, we did that a lot with putting Songo on the Rakan, and then he just roamed everywhere. And then we just left. We're like, all right, go on, you're fine. Stay bot lane with Tristana. You'll be fine. And I think that's, again, like it comes down to like what can you go against. And I do think the Vayne into Draven should win that one, but Vayne's never out of the game. That's the thing. Yeah. Like as soon as you hit mid to late, like you can even watch just our game against TG. Like as soon as it hit, like Vayne was down early in that game, and like we were heavily punishing the Vayne lane, and then she just got back in the game. Like he just stayed under tower, got his farm up, kept farming, and every team fight was making sure that he's getting the auto attacks. And I think that's the biggest key of making sure Vayne continues to scale into the late game is you got to make sure you're getting your attacks in properly in every team fight, because I think that's where Vayne can get a little dicey because her auto attack range is pretty small, but she can gap
until
close,
the new lethal tempo
for her. Yeah, exactly.
Some of the new items, I'm like, Some of the new souls I don't love. The new maps I don't love. I do like the Drake effects, but
why does everyone hate the new Dragon Souls? I love them. The Hex Tech portals is like the best thing in existence.
It feels too jank. It feels too game changing.
That's why it's so cool.
Yeah.
Break the game.
Areas, I mean, I just think I think there's too much RNG coin flipping going on with I'm gonna teleport from red side blue buff behind the dragon pit while Drake's going on. It's just that's cartoon nonsense is the amount of chaos coming out of that Drake in particular. And even I don't know, everyone suddenly has Viego clouds in all the jungles, also weird. I don't know. I feel like it coin flips specifically to certain champs and certain comps are favored so heavily by the new map in a way that's it shouldn't be so swingy. I don't know. We'll see. I do love the new Drake effects. I think they're amazing. I think they're super well thought out. But yeah, anyways, original point of this, lethal tempo. I'm so excited. It is sick. It just everything that I want it to be.
That's why I think it's terrifying.
Yeah,
I feel like it's an ADC's wet dream. Just straight up.
Even with new lethal sounds disgusting because she can maintain it forever, especially if you're giving her more range every auto. She can maintain that forever.
I think we should say, for those who have not looked at the preseason patch notes, lethal tempo is basically getting a attack speed steroid that is ridiculously high. You can have 1.5 attack speed at level 1, 0.75 at level 1. And then your auto attack range will increase it'll basically take Vayne to, I think it's Caitlyn auto attack range.
Effectively, and maybe I've misread it now, it's effectively like a ranged attack speed version of what Conqueror is, which is like the melee attack damage one. It's a stacking buff that lasts as long as you can maintain it. It's not like an instant, like every time you land an auto continuing on champs, you get a little more attack speed and a little more range. And the ability, and like that's why some of the people that already have long range, like you can imagine like an MF who's with W active just running Teemo actually with W active, gaining range, gaining attack speed as long as he can maintain it. That sounds totally bananas to me. But I also could be interpreting the rune.
Jinx sounds like she's gonna be real fun with this new rune because she's already pretty broke with lethal tempo, and once you get your rune hands, it's just ridiculous. So you just all right, my Q's always on now.
Yep. And the way the attack range works is that's its max stack. So it's you have 6 stacks that you can get at max stacks that will increase your attack range. You don't have that until you get to that point.
I got it.
And I want to say it's a 5% attack speed boost per stack, and then a 15% attack speed boost for melee stack. And then, because melee can use lethal tempo too now, and their attack range will be increased by 50 units, and I think auto attack range is increased by 150.
It's okay. This is just gonna make Jhin a niche pick again.
Oh my god!
And then no one's gonna pick him anymore. And it's just gonna be open for me every game because he's my favorite ADC to play down bot side.
Honestly, I think it still works with Jhin pretty well because you still get that attack range boost once you get to the max stacks, and he just converts that auto attack speed into damage. So
I actually was talking to a friend of mine. I was like, this is like low key a secret Jhin rune. You just get range and more damage. If he can start that off with a rapid fire cannon and just keep it stacked with movement speed and everything he gets, the attack speed makes his crit movement speed boosts better. And I mean, I still don't think there's ever been an amazing rune for Jhin. Dark Harvest is nuts. But if an AD carry is forced onto Dark Harvest, I think there's still something could be better. And the fleet is also fine, but it's not amazing. He's without like a fitting rune. And late game, like a fully built Jhin with the movement speed and the stacking attack speed giving him more movement speed off of that rune is bananas. Problem is that with a late game Jhin, team fights almost don't even last 6 auto attacks. Hard to say.
I feel like he would also be very upset by the fact that it's 6 auto attacks and would almost not want to do it out of spite. So
yeah, pretty much.
But yeah, so that's the new runes. Obviously, preseason's not coming out till next season, and so like that I think will just be craziness that we have to deal with. So in the meantime, though, let's kind of hop back into this. I think we've gone over the Terracotta and the RLS side of things fairly well. We've got kind of like a good understanding. So obviously, like what's kind of y'all's predictions, do you think, for the game?
I think it's gonna go 3-2, but it can go either way.
Nah,
like, we got it. But I'm being obviously. I think we're going to win, but like realistically, I think it's going to be 3-2. One team's gonna win. Hopefully, it's CG.
Does that count for a gym badge? Just out of curiosity.
No. They have to be all 5 Pokemon, which is a game. So.
Gotcha.
I see a 3-1 because I see us getting disrespectful for a match and then waking up and realizing we need to. Yeah, first or second game. Maybe we drop. We'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a 3-2, and I do. I'm not just because we're with TG players. I do just think TG is gonna execute. And I do think it because whoever wins the first match, I think is gonna win this. So I think it's gonna be just a back and forth, and it's gonna go down to the 2-2, and then it's gonna be a game 5 get out silver scrapes. And I think it mostly it's gonna, in my opinion, will come down to if Anti and War Leader can continue to execute. I think that will be that's gonna be the linchpin for TG, is making sure to keep Anti and War Leader and keeping vision on wherever War Leader is. Just make sure you know where he's at. So keeping up their wards, I think, is gonna be key to actually finding out where he is.
Specifically in our games, it's never actually. I think War Leader and Anti play really fine in all the games that we played against them. It's been like escape, to be honest. Like
he just escapes. He just gets away.
Yeah, like, but he's definitely mentioned that in a few Escape mentioned that like a few times where he's just like, He doesn't seem like he correlates well with the team in general. But I mentioned this another time I describe it. So like, I personally, it's just a play style thing. That's just how I think. I think he needs specific, like a better play style that fits him better. But obviously, I don't know behind the scenes. I don't know what's happening to be 100% exact.
Yeah, they could just be putting him like maybe they're drafting a comp and then they're worrying about him maybe third, because it seems that's how, because they draft top to jungle, it seems almost every time first. Like those are their priorities, is they're top to jungle, and because they're trying to win through those lanes. And they're kind of, I feel like bot lane for them has always been an afterthought. Their bot lane and their mid laner, because I know when we were scouting them, their mid laner was what we viewed as their weakest point, and their bot lane was like, well, you can draw even, or beat them, just depended, how the matchup went for us. But I think, they play through their top side. So I would agree with you. I think they might just be not kind of letting him, be a peacock, let him fly a little bit.
Yeah.
I think we're losing. I think we're getting jungle gapped.
I mean, you only get so much from a support-filled jungle.
Yeah, I mean,
hey, fine. Like I've been finding way more success in the jungle than I have in the support lane. My solo queue games, just saying.
That's also because jungle. No one wants to play jungle.
Exactly.
In solo queue.
Plus, I keep getting autofill. That's exactly why I keep getting autofill to it.
Hey, jungle is very underrated. It's honest, like, because I remember when I started on Girl, I was the jungler, and then when I joined TC, they're like, all right, now, and I spent all this time like getting all these champs in my champ pool, worrying about picks and everything, getting like understanding my pathing, and then we get on STC and we go, all right, bud, you're playing top lane now. And it's like, all right, yes. Well, I have champs there, but all that practice in the jungle was for naught.
Yeah.
I do question the anti-hype a little bit sometimes. Mainly, the first game we ever had, he had like 9 kills and didn't turn it into anything. I mean, genuinely, like, did not move that lead anywhere else on his team. Did not advance that into anything.
Even our second game, he had like 9 kills.
I had a cloud of mystery over the second game with them. I remember literally I don't even remember what champ I played. I don't remember.
So I specifically remember because it was the game that me and Seth really entered our fight, and it ended up being really bad. So, but let's see. All right, so you want to talk about Rex and it now?
Yeah, so I guess like I said, we've talked for like 40 minutes now on TG versus RLS. Let's talk about Rex versus INT, a team that has no stake in this conversation at the moment.
Yeah.
So like out of these two teams, between them, personally, I feel like Rex is favored. I kind of wonder if they're a little bit too slave to the meta is a good way to describe it, like too solidly focused on the meta, that INT might be able to pull out something crazy. I do think I do favor Rex, and I do think that it's going to end up being, I think it'll be a 3-1, personally.
I think it'll probably be a 3-1 to Rex, but I definitely think Ins can win it if Rex doesn't show with their A game.
Mm-hmm.
If they're on their B game and Ins on their A game, it's a wrap. It'll be 3-0.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think, let's not forget INT. Like, they've been in the league since season 1, and they were season 2 champs, I believe. Don't underestimate Boexplode to bring out some crazy pick in the jungle that just starts to just wreck shop throughout the map. Because one thing that I think it's been him and Raafaa, in my opinion, have kind of been like at the top of the jungle players in the league, at least for the Helios League. At least in my experience, like I think that's pretty accurate. Boexplode has a very deep champ pool, and you can't necessarily ban anything away from him. Mm-hmm. And same thing with Raafaa, you can't ban anything away from him. And Joushi, if you give him Gnar, it's just a GG up top.
I think it's funny, and like I've said that too. The Gnar diff is just so big.
It's huge. Even if you try to get that away from him, it's like you're not gonna execute it as well. I don't know what it is. It's just that's his staple champion.
I think his Gnar is slightly overrated. Personally, I think he's really good at it.
He thinks his Gnar is overrated.
I mean, it's a I think everyone just doesn't know how to play against it in this league specifically. Like,
I agree.
We didn't ban it as TG, and we did just fine. So it just depends on like how your team plays, if you guys can handle it.
So
Like,
what's Terracotta's secret sauce then to destroy the Gnar?
Shielded on a tank. There you go.
Build it on a tank. You just keep abusing your teammates. You just make shielded play tanks. You don't let your.
Hey, I play tanks. Antunes plays tanks. We might as well have our mid play tanks. We'll put AD carry on a tank. Like we're just gonna play 5 tanks. That's how it's gonna be.
It's gonna be a wet. It's gonna be not just a wet noodle fight topside. It's a wet noodle fight all across the game, boys.
God, this makes it so hard to cast. I mean, I'm good at hyping up the pool noodles, but still, come on, give me something.
Yeah, I mean, I think a really big thing about it is if someone has a really strong top laner, in the case of, let's say Joushi, and he's playing Gnar, and we play Shen into it, even if he wins, like and this is what happened, and I think in the game that we played against them, I think they played Gnar, and I'm 99% sure that they committed a ton of resources to Gnar, and I'm not even sure that it got him particularly ahead, but even if it did, they've committed a whole bunch of resources to a Shen lane, and Shen's just fine. I think you cut out.
No, you cut out.
Yeah,
we lost you there for a second.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, we got you back now.
Yeah. So anyways, they commit a ton of resources up to the Shen, up to beating the Shen, and it's not really a thing that you need to commit any resources to. You're not accomplishing anything. Making a Shen have a bad time, you're really not accomplishing much.
Yeah, because Shen's just personally for me, I play him Shen is the most underrated pick in my opinion in the top side, because you have so much pressure. Like, you're sitting there, oh, my team's fighting in bot side, well, let me click the R button, and then now we have a slated team fight. Oh, hold on, I'm at TP back top now that we got those kills. Like, just you can't really keep Shen too hard out of the game, because he's got so much ability to go cross map and create that pressure. Yes, you lose out on farm. I think if you're playing the macro, it really balances out in my opinion.
I think that Int and Rex, I think Int has low-key known that they're going to make playoffs and has been low-key limit testing for a while. I think in the second half of the season was not really what Int was in the first half of the season. Our second game against Int, I think, was actually one of the easier games we played in the season. We had a harder time with CFG the second round. I think they have been swapping a lot. We've seen Bo on support and all kinds of stuff. I think Int has low-key been limit testing. I think if Int turns around and does their normal thing, I'm leaning on the Int wins it side a little bit, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Voice of Dissension's always good.
All of the really important relevant things that we are waging on this, it's
Well, and I think maybe game one, personally, Rex might not take them as seriously. I'm not in their chat. I'm not in their Discord. I don't know, but I think you can underestimate them and not take them as seriously, and then they punch you in the mouth.
Yep.
I think it was them who played that. They played 4 ADCs in a game one of the games this season.
Yeah.
They played Sivir support.
Yeah.
And it was just I think it was that was Int. I'm pretty sure. So I think
I remember who that was up against.
That was against Girl, because it hurt my soul watching the disrespect to Girl, because I love that team.
Oh, that's it. I was a sub for Girl. I think I only played maybe 1 or 2 games.
I believe you played against us, I think.
Yeah, I think so. I got gapped so hard.
Hey, it happens.
Yeah, this was the one. Yep, this was the game right here.
Yeah, the 3 ADC with Quinn and Victor, it was just, I don't understand how they made that team comp work, because I just looking at that, I was like, all right. And then I'm watching Girl get ahead, and I was like, all right, yeah, this is exactly how I thought it was going to go, because they drafted a team comp. But,
I think
sometimes
Good.
I also think that they're way better individual players than a lot of the league. Like, they're probably in the best individual players in the tournament, in both leagues.
Talking about INT, right?
Yeah, talking about INT.
No, I definitely think so. And I've always, personally, watching their games, I've always felt like their drafts were more solo queuey. in the sense, like it.
Well, yeah, they play what they're comfortable with.
Yeah, that's what I mean. But it's like it's a lot less. Like even some of these other teams that play what they're comfortable with, they're also playing. Okay, what's a style game that we want to play?
Yeah.
Well, with INT, they're just like, okay, let's go. These are the guys we're up against. Let's do this. So I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna take Sivir. We're good. We got this.
Yeah, their draft's like a hold my beer and watch this.
Yup. That's exactly it. Hold my beer.
Just walk in like, all right, bam, we're doing this.
Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, that didn't work last time. Let's try this then. So
just smack your head against the keyboard strat.
Yeah, which I think might actually give Rex a little bit of difficulty because, like I said, they're kind of like I don't want to. They're not meta slaved, but they're definitely kind of linked to it in the sense of they're expecting certain plays, playing like they're expecting teams to react a specific way, and so it's like the checkers guy playing chess against a grandmaster where the grandmaster is going to make a mistake, not because they made an inoptimal play, but because the checkers player just made such a stupid play they didn't see it coming.
Yeah, and I also think that Ints is a polar opposite of Rex. Like, I'm gonna use Magic the Gathering for a reference.
Yeah.
So I feel like Rex is like a blue-green team. They play for scaling, they play for control. And then I think Int is like a red team. Super aggressive.
Red black.
I'd say red-black would actually work for them.
Yeah, red-black, super aggressive.
Super aggressive.
Removal, exile.
Yeah. They've got zombies all over the place and keep coming back, and you're like, how are you still here?
Death touch with their 1/1 assassin. Just like you got a 2020 on with trample over there, and he's just like 1/1 assassin.
Yep.
Death touch. Let's go.
With first strike.
Yeah, you won't.
You thought. Yep.
But
yeah, I would agree with that.
And like you can obviously like red black can obviously beat green blue pretty easily. Like if they get the right cards, in this case champions, like, and they play it well and they play it at the right time, I think they can. I also think this is gonna be like a 3-2 game. That's just me. I think both sets of 5 are going to be super close.
I think it's all depending on if INT's bringing their A game. It's going to be like if they're all completely focused and they're able to like totally commit during those first 2 games, like they can easily start taking stuff away, even if they lose out. But it's definitely going to, I think that's going to make the biggest difference.
Yeah, I think it might go Rex gets 2 up on him and then gets relaxed, and then INT punches back for 2. And then we got Silver Scrapes.
Yep, Silver Scrapes for game 5, which is always the most entertaining. Not necessarily the most fun to play in.
No, it's not.
All right,
well, been there. Because even harkening back to season 1, that was I think we made the playoffs with Team 200 Years, and then we got scuffed out 3-0'd early.
Hey, at least you guys finished. Remember Team Exterminatus, the team I was on? We just basically we mental boomed, and I was like, for the good of y'all's health, I'm saying we're quitting. That was how that went down.
Yes. See, a lot of our chat was we were just outmatched because it was like, oh yeah, we're all bronze and silvers with our highest player being a gold going up against plats and diamonds. This is not fun.
Yeah, that was. I enjoyed it personally. I thought it was a lot of fun because I think my game improved the most because I played in FoF season 1. And I was up against
absolutely.
Like I honestly that was the reason why I climbed as high as I did, which I think was silver 2 at one point, and then now I'm just like I have lost touch with how to play the game. I don't understand. It's like I don't get it. It's like I'm doing what I was doing before, but it's just not working anymore. So
well, there are also 4 other people on your team. So that's my one concern.
I will not blame other people for my own incompetence, okay?
That's true. I mean,
call yourself a League of Legends player, please.
How dare you?
Yeah, okay, fine. It's everyone else's fault. It's not mine.
I mean, to that point, I will say, that's one thing I would say to recruit, to take a little side note to recruit new players who watch the lounge. Get your buddies together and get in. I started my first season, we got a couple wins, but we also just got rolled.
Yep.
But I learned a lot about matchups, learning vision control, learning, especially as a jungler, learning pathing and actually executing that pathing and making sure timing on objectives. Like my play went from you're deep in bronze to, you know, I'm knocking on the door of gold now because of, you know, my exposure in the FoF, and like everyone's like really nice too, like learning how to play, like even other teams, like you go against them, yeah, and there's some banter, there's some crap talk, but a lot of them will work with you and like friend you. Like I know I've played like with War Leader, I've played with a couple of guys from other seasons that were diamonds, and like just giving me tips and tricks and stuff. So like yeah, I think if you want to improve your game, this is definitely the best competitive scene for that, in my opinion.
I appreciate that, and I know that Koshi would definitely appreciate that if he were here, and I'm sure he's heard it from a bunch of other folks.
I won't say that to Koshi. This stays here at the lounge. Koshi's not gonna know.
I understand not telling him in person. I get it.
He's already got a big head. We don't need to blow it up any further.
Or we just have your players pay $15 a month to
join $14.99 gaming.
Hey, and if you're really nice to Shargan, it comes down to $14.98.
Mm-hmm. Ooh. Yeah, I'll give Oriri a penny for you.
That's that FoF discount there.
Prorating the rest of the team.
Yep.
There you go.
Awesome. Okay, well, you know, so like I said, I think we're pretty excited for these upcoming matches. I don't really have too much else on the docket, unless there was something specific y'all wanted to talk about.
Go ahead.
I just said that's all.
Just well, I think that's it, right?
Yeah, I'm good. No,
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I think this has been a very competitive season. Yeah, because I played in the first one. I watched 2 and 3. I think this is the fourth one, or is this the third one?
This is the fourth.
I've watched the fourth. Yeah, I've watched the other seasons, so I think this has been the most competitive, especially across the Luna and the Helios League. And
despite all the hiccups, yeah.
Yeah, and that's unfortunate that does happen. But you know, like in one of our games, we had our top laner kept disconnecting. We had a 15-minute pause, so that was rough. That was the mental boom.
Yeah.
But I think the top 6 teams were very competitive, and they were all really good League of Legends games to watch in particular. And then the casting this season, I think, has taken a severe leap, and I've much like Shargan, you guys do a great job, like Whirler, Lolo, like everyone does such a great job of keeping the entertainment value going. The everything on the season just been ticked up a huge notch as far as the graphics, the play, the teams, and the camaraderie in the league. I think it's just been a super it's a very good experience for me as a player, as well as being on a team, managing a team, coaching a team, the whole thing. It's just been a really cool experience.
Agreed. Yeah, no, it's been awesome. Schnecky and Lolo, just those guys smurf it, just straight up.
Oh yeah, yeah. And these playoffs are gonna be really fun to watch. I had a great time watching the Luna League playoffs so far, and I was unable to cast one of those because of work. But it's been really fun to be a part of the team and watching all this stuff. It's been very entertaining and just solid League of Legends.
Absolutely. All right, Oriri, Irontower, what you got to close us out on?
TG win it all.
TG win it all. Okay. All right, so with that, I'm going to go ahead and close it out here, folks. I want to say thank you so much. A quick shout out to our sponsors, Adobe Creative Cloud and Logitech Gaming. Greatly appreciate y'all's support. And then remember to tune in Thursday and Friday, 4:30 Pacific time, start time. We're going to be having Terracotta going up against RLS, and then we've got Rex Regalis going up against In the Trees. Both of these sets, I think, are going to be really exciting to watch, really intense, and it's going to be awesome. So that's going to be twitch.tv/FoF Esports, 4:30 Pacific time. We'll see you on the Rift.